In 1992, I was 9 years old, and on a weekend morning, my mom called me into the family room to watch a famous guitar player debut his new special on MTV. The guitarist was Eric Clapton, and the world as I knew it had forever changed. Almost immediately after that, I bought this album, or should I say, my mom bought it for me. It prominently featured Eric's famous black Fender Stratocaster. I must have stared at that back cover for hours and hours. So it should have been no surprise that I fell madly in love with the Strat. Now, Eric's guitar didn't leave the factory that way. He actually assembled it himself out of parts from several guitars he bought while on tour.
It wasn't until I went through the States on tour that I started picking them up in pawn shops and record shops for a song, you know, and I'd buy 4 or 5 at a time.
They didn't have a word for this in the 70s, but now we call this building a partscaster. Sadly, I've never owned a black Strat, but I have owned a lot of other guitars over the years. With that, I've accumulated more guitar parts than anyone should, almost enough to build an entire guitar. So after a few clicks on eBay, I had all the fixins to build a black Strat of my very own. Within a couple of days, I put it together. I used it on some gigs. I even used it on my live stream. There was only one problem. I didn't like it. Don't get me wrong, it was playable. It looked the part, and it sounded fine. But for whatever reason, it just wasn't comfortable. So I'm headed to my local music store to see if I can rectify the problem.
I don't know what to do with these.
So the question would be, what is the allure of personalizing your instrument?
It's about making it your own thing. They all look the same when you take them off the shelf, but, you know, putting your own pick guard on it or your own pickup covers, swapping out the tuning machines. There's the concept of upgrading it and making it better than it was when it comes off the shelf.
Later, bro.
Later, man. Have a good one.
I love those guys. First, I start by mounting all the electronics onto a plastic plate called a pick guard. I then solder the components together using this diagram. Then, I connect the output jack and grounds, after which I'll test it to see if it all works. Chef John calls this the old tappa-tappa. Next, I'll mount the neck to the body, being very careful not to over-tighten the neck screws. Now, it's ready for strings and adjustment to all the little screws, nuts, and fine tuners. We call this process a setup. At this point, there's only one thing left to do. This guitar has exactly the sound that I heard in my head before I built it. And I realized I didn't need to recreate an instrument that worked for Eric Clapton. I needed to create an instrument that worked for me. But the best part is that I can feel and sound like me, all while paying tribute to my hero. Something I think I'm going to do right now.